Hello and welcome. If you are new to the game of golf and you are trying to figure out what golf clubs to buy in this beginning phase of your golf career, this podcast episode is perfect for you because that's exactly what we're going to go through today.
Welcome to the Golf for Beginners podcast, your essential guide to mastering golf fundamentals. Whether you're a beginner golfer or a seasoned player looking to refine the basics, join us as we teach you everything about the fundamentals of swing technique, course management, equipment, rules, and how to practice. Today's host is none other than the award-winning PGA golf instructor Nikolaj Setti Engström, CEO of the biggest golf teaching business in Denmark and founder of Golf for Beginners Academy.
Hello and welcome to the Golf for Beginners podcast. My name is Nikolaj Setti Engström and I'm going to be your golf instructor, or maybe more like a golf club fitter actually, because we're going to talk about golf equipment and we're going to talk about what is the best options for you as a new golfer if you are looking to buy some new golf clubs. And I'm not going to be talking about brands or anything or trying to sell you anything. That is not at all the purpose. The purpose is to give you 6 different tips on what to look out for if you are a beginner golfer looking to buy your first set of golf clubs. So what we're going to talk about is 6 different things I really want you to consider before you're jumping into buying some golf clubs. And the first tip is going to be about the, what do we call that? Let's call it the type of golf clubs. Because you can have very forgiving golf clubs and you can have more not forgiving golf clubs basically. And they are they are aimed to different types of golfers. And forgiving golf clubs are usually very nice for beginners because they are built in order to help you, and they are built in order to help the ball fly a long way, especially if you don't hit them in the middle of the golf club, which is all things that are really nice for beginner golf. You can also get club heads that are built for really good players, and of course they can feel super nice to hit, but if you don't hit those type of golf clubs in the middle of the club face, they're not going to go very far, and they're just in general way more difficult to play with. So you always want to look for forgiveness in your club heads. And what is forgiveness? Well, how do you know if there's forgiveness in club heads? Of course, you can always ask your local pro or whoever you're talking to about it, but in generally, the wider the sole, which means the bottom of the club head basically, the wider it is, the more forgiveness there will usually be in those type of club heads. So really make sure you aim for most amount of forgiveness because you are new to the game and you want the help you can get because it is a pretty difficult game to get started with. So that's definitely going to be a number 1. Choose more forgiving clubs if you can. The second tip is going to be about the shafts. And usually it is a nice idea for a beginner golfer not to have too heavy shafts. Okay, so there can be a massive difference between the weight of the shaft in a golf club. And it can range from 40 grams all the way up to 100, 120, even on irons we can go to 130 grams. So there's a massive difference, and the weight of the shaft is actually the most important specification in relation to the weight of the golf club, because that has the biggest influence on the overall weight feeling of the golf club. And usually it's very nice for beginners not to go too heavy. If you go lighter, it's usually easier to get the ball flying up in the air, and you can usually also swing them a little bit faster if they're not too heavy. So I would usually choose something more lightweight in the shaft if you're a beginner golfer. Of course, if you are a very big guy, long arms, and you swing the club extremely fast, then you probably shouldn't go for super lightweight shaft. But most other beginners, they won't swing the club very fast at the beginning, and then it can be really beneficial to go opt for the lightweight shafts. So that was tip number 2. Then we move on to tip number 3, and we're going to talk about the driver. And I would usually aim for quite a lot of loft on the driver if you are new to golf, because a driver isn't just a driver, and the loft that's basically the club face, what angle that has relative to the ground. And you can have all kind of different lofts. You can get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 degrees of loft on your driver. And of course it should fit your swing and all of this stuff. but I see so many beginner golfers, they go for a 7-degree driver, which is not a lot, that's very low, and they really struggle to get the ball flying up in the air, and by that they need to compensate by doing a lot of wrong mistakes or weird mistakes in their swing to get the ball up in the air because the driver doesn't really fit them, and that is just a sad spiral. So usually it's a good idea to get some more loft on the driver in the beginning, and then of course as you develop you can try and go for lower loft if that fits you, but in the beginning you would usually need some loft in order to get the ball up in the air. And 12.5-degree, if now I can't really recommend anything specific for you, but 12.5-degree, that's usually a fine starting point. Ladies, because they usually swing the club a little bit slower, they would maybe even go for 13-14 degrees on the driver. So that was tip number 3. And then we move on to tip number 4. And I've written here in my notes that you shouldn't overdo it. And what the hell do I mean with that? I honestly just mean that you are allowed to have 14 clubs in your golf bag when you play a golf round. But for most beginners, that is not at all necessary. And this is very important to highlight because I really want to help you here. Because if you go into a golf shop, there is a chance that they will try and sell you 14 golf clubs as a beginner golfer. And that's just an overkill because you won't need 14 clubs in the beginning. You might need a driver, a hybrid, maybe 7-iron, pitching wedge, sandwich, putter. That's honestly fine for the first half or full year of your golf career. Of course, depending on how well you play and all this stuff, but you definitely do not need 14 clubs. Okay, so try and think about. Okay, maybe you've been out playing a few times with some friends and you borrowed their clubs. Maybe think about, okay, how many clubs did I actually use? As I said, maybe it was the driver. Maybe you tried the hybrid a little bit a few times. Then maybe a 7-iron, maybe a pitching wedge once in a while, maybe a sandwich or a lob wedge when you win around the green, and then maybe a putter. And honestly, that is fine because for a lot of people, the having to buy 14 golf clubs is a massive barrier in order to actually get to play the game because it's a lot of money to buy 14 golf clubs. And why don't we just flip the mindset and say, well, it's better that you just have 4 or 5 golf clubs that you can afford, and then you actually get out and play and you learn how to play. And then you'll also slowly figure out what kind of more clubs you would like to have instead of having to spend so much money on 14 clubs right away. It's really not necessary for a beginner. So that was tip number 4, don't overdo it. And then we move on to tip number 5. This is about a lot of places you can buy this beginner's golf club set. And usually there will be 10, 11, 12, maybe even 14 clubs in this golf bag. But it's a beginner set and they're usually actually really cheap. And I just want to talk a little bit about it. And as a complete start, these packages can be really nice, okay, in the beginning. The issue with these packages, I don't know if I should say issues, but the reason why I'm not a massive fan for people to hold on to them for many years is usually the drivers and the fairway woods and the hybrid. The quality of those are usually not very high. Irons are actually usually quite okay. Wedges and putters, all of that is super fine, and the bag itself is also usually really good on these beginner packages. But the driver especially and the fairway woods, and if there's a hybrid, the quality of those are really low. The shafts are usually extremely cheap and they are so unstable, and the club heads are not really built to send the ball anywhere. So I recommend a beginner package at the beginning if you want to. That's completely fine, but if you manage to get up to speed with the game, within not too long, I really want to recommend that you get some, first of all, a better driver, like a real driver from a big brand, not one of these beginner packages. And then afterwards, it's probably time to look at a hybrid or a fairway wood, not from a beginner package as well, something from the bigger brands as well, because you would really be able to feel the difference in those. As I said, irons, wedges, putters are fine from these packages for a while, but you need drivers, fairway woods, and hybrids to be upgraded pretty fast. So that was the beginner package. And then the last point number 6 on the list here. I want you to think about a little bit, if your clubs that you're buying, I want you to think about what your plans and what your hopes for your golf game is in the future. Because if you are planning to, maybe not really practice that much, maybe play once in a while. But it's not going to be a big thing. It's just something you want to have a little bit of fun with once in a while. Then you want to find some golf clubs that helps you the most amount right now. Okay. So as we talked about in the beginning, most amount of forgiveness, all of these things, most amount of help you can get right now. And then that's going to be completely fine for you. But if you are a player that says, well, I really want to invest some time, I want to invest some energy, I want to practice, I want to learn, I want to get better, I want to get down in handicap, then maybe decide, to buy a kind of golf set that maybe doesn't fit you 100% right now. Maybe the clubs are a little bit too not enough forgiving for you right now, but probably in a half a year or a year, you're going to grow into the set. Okay. So I usually see it as if you're growing out of the set or if you're growing into the set. If you buy something that's really forgiving right now and you're planning to spend a lot of hours on practicing and all this stuff, you're probably going to grow out of that set pretty fast. And then you would need to buy new clubs. But if you buy some clubs that maybe fit, a player that are better than you are right now, then you're going to grow into the set. And just from an economic perspective, that can usually be a better idea. If you plan to invest time and energy in your golf game, then it makes better sense to buy something you're growing yourself into instead of buying a new set now and then growing out of it in half a year and then having to buy a new one. That's a bit sad. So have a little think about how your future looks for the game before you actually invest in golf clubs. And by that, we actually made it to the end of this list today. I want to say thank you so much for listening in. I hope it was interesting for you to listen to. And I hope that you want to listen along on the next episode. And don't forget to jump over to our website. It's called golfforbeginners.academy. If you're looking for more information about how to get started with the game of golf in the best possible way. Thank you so much for today. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Golf for Beginners podcast. We hope you found valuable tips and inspiration to enhance your golf journey. Remember, whether you're a novice or a seasoned player, there's always room for improvement. For more in-depth resources, tutorials, and a supportive community, head over to our website at golfforbeginners.academy. There, you'll find a wealth of information to elevate your game. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with your fellow golf enthusiasts. Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and enjoy this lovely game.